The dining table was full. Plates passed from hand to hand. Laughter floated around the room. From the outside, it looked warm, normal, comfortable. I sat at the end of the table, quiet as usual, listening more than speaking. That had always been my role in this family, present, but never really included. Halfway through dinner, my dad cleared his throat. That sound always meant a comment was coming, usually a joke at someone's expense. Most of the time, mine. You know, he said, smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. No one in this family actually likes you. A few people chuckled, awkwardly, thinking it was humor. My mom didn't correct him. My sister smirked. I felt the words land heavier than they should have. Not because they were new, but because he said them so casually, so confidently, like it was an accepted truth everyone already agreed on. I looked around the table. No one protested. No one said, "That's not true." They just kept eating. Something inside me went very still. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just nodded slightly and took another bite of food. Dad continued, encouraged by the silence. "You've always been different, hard to deal with. People tolerate you. That's about it." This time, my sister laughed openly. "He's not wrong." I realized something in that moment. They weren't trying to hurt me. They genuinely believed this. They had repeated this narrative so many times over the years that it had become fact in their minds. And maybe at some point, I had started believing it too. But tonight felt different because earlier that day, I had received an email that none of them knew about. An email that changed everything. I had been quietly working on something for the past 3 years. A project, a partnership, something I never mentioned because every time I shared an idea in this house, it was mocked before it could even breathe. So I stopped sharing. I started building silently. And today, that silence paid off. The email confirmed the deal was finalized. The signatures were done. The transfer was complete. What I had built was now officially valued at more money than anyone at this table had ever seen in their lifetime. I didn't plan to tell them tonight. I didn't even want to. But as I watched them laugh at me like I was some permanent family joke, I realized something. They didn't dislike me. They had never taken the time to know me. Dad leaned back in his chair. "You should really work on your personality. That's why people don't connect with you." I placed my fork down gently. My hands were steady. My voice, when I spoke, surprised even me. "That's interesting," I said. Everyone looked at me. I rarely spoke during these moments. "What is?" Dad asked. "That you think no one likes me." He shrugged. "Just being honest." I nodded slowly. "You might want to rethink that after tomorrow." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "Nothing," I said calmly, picking up my glass. "Just something you'll understand very soon." The table fell quiet for a second. Then the conversation moved on. They thought I was being cryptic, dramatic, maybe trying to sound important. They had no idea. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small at that table. I felt like the only person in the room who knew the truth. The next morning, I left the house earlier than usual. No one noticed. They rarely did. I drove straight to the office building downtown, the one I had visited dozens of times over the past year without ever telling my family where I was going. Today felt different. Today wasn't about planning. It was about finalizing. The reception staff greeted me warmly. They knew my name. They smiled when they saw me. Not the polite smile you give a stranger, but the kind you give someone you respect. "Congratulations again," one of them said. "Thank you," I replied. Upstairs, the conference room was ready. The partners were already seated, laptops open, documents prepared, coffee cups half full. This was the final formal meeting after the valuation report had come in the night before. 3 years ago, this had started as a side idea I worked on quietly in my room while everyone else slept. I had learned, built, tested, failed, and tried again. No one in my family knew, because every time I had shared something in the past, it became a joke at the dinner table. So I stopped sharing. I let the work speak only to the people who understood it. The lead partner slid the final document toward me. "We're excited to move forward. The valuation exceeded even our expectations." I signed calmly, but inside my heart was racing, not from nerves, from realization. The numbers printed on that page were more than my father had earned in his entire career, more than my sister's combined savings, more than anything they had ever associated with me. After the meeting, we took a group photo. They insisted. This is a big moment. One of them said, "You built something incredible." I smiled. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen for who I actually was, not who my family assumed I was. By afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. "Pick up groceries on your way home." I stared at it for a second and almost laughed. The contrast was surreal. Hours ago, I had finalized a multi-million deal. And here I was being reminded to bring milk and bread. I replied with a simple, "Okay." That evening, the family was back at the dinner table. Same seats, same plates, same casual atmosphere. I placed the grocery bags on the counter and sat down quietly. No one asked about my day. They never did. Halfway through dinner, my sister started talking about a colleague who got a promotion. Dad nodded approvingly. "That's what progress looks like," he said. "Some people actually move forward in life." I knew that comment was aimed at me. It always was. This time, I didn't let it slide. "I had an interesting day too," I said calmly. Dad raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yes," I continued. "I finalized a deal." They waited, expecting something small, something unimpressive. "What kind of deal?" my mom asked. I took out my phone and opened the photo from earlier. The conference room, the partners, the signed documents on the table. "I sold my project partnership today," I said. Dad leaned forward slightly. "What project?" "The one I've been working on for 3 years." Silence. "You never told us about any project," my sister said. I looked at her. "I tried. A few times." "You laughed." Dad frowned. "How much are we talking about?" I turned the phone toward them and zoomed into the valuation number on the document in the photo. At first, they didn't understand. Then Dad's eyes widened. My mom's hand slowly covered her mouth. My sister stopped mid-bite. "That can't be real," Dad whispered. "It is," I said quietly. The room that once felt like a place where I was invisible suddenly felt very small. Very quiet. No one laughed this time. Dad looked at me differently. Not with jokes. Not with dismissal. With disbelief. "No one likes you," he had said. Now, no one knew what to say. "I didn't need you to like me," I said calmly. "I needed you to see me." The table stayed silent. For the first time, they weren't laughing at me. They were realizing they never actually knew me at all.